We got an email from a guy that was basically connecting atheism to another issue that's not atheism. He was objecting to Kathleen Johnson's visit here when she was on the show, saying that somehow she was pro-militaristic and in favor of invading Iraq and bombing innocent civilians, and yeah, one of those.
Really?
Yeah, I responded to him appropriately.
What an odd thing to send to somebody who is retired military and former military.
Yeah.
There is nothing, I mean, it's, not even the ACA has a particular position on military issues, even though we have position statements. It's not, wow, we're back to something we've talked about 4 or 5 times before, which is you and I agree on this God issue, therefore you're likely to agree with me on this other issue. And the answer is no. I'm not. That doesn't make me more like. Well, all right. It may make me more likely to, depending on how you derived that. But in much the same way that, well, we have disagreements, you know, with each other, even within our group. We have had it on the nonprofits. It's well known what we are not fans of, and I won't mention them because it'll bring in the email again. But if you know, I think it's because atheists are a minority in the population.
Yeah. And
so it is viewed often as this kind of fringe belief. And so these guys are likely to also believe these fringe things that I believe. Yeah. No, I'm an atheist because of a reliance on critical thinking, skepticism, and science. I am skeptical of any claim until it's actually been demonstrated by evidence. I am, from a social standpoint, my ideas on rights and stuff are derived from a set of principles that are consistent with my atheism, but not tied to it in any way. And the fact that you and I happen to agree that we don't believe there's a God doesn't mean we're going to agree on anything else. But we still get email.
Yes, but if you don't agree that my colloidal silver homeopathic preparation works for any and all diseases, then you're just not being a critical thinker.
There you go.
You're just like those theists you rail against. So, yep.
So we've got Casey in Richmond.
Hello?
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Good.
I was calling because recently...
Did they spell your name right?
Huh?
Is your name spelled right on the screen?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not watching the stream because it was lagging.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Who knows? I was calling because recently there have been some very, very large, probably between 8 and 10 foot white wooden crosses being put up on the sides of the roads. And I was talking to screeners, and they asked if they're memorial crosses. And I explained that they're most certainly not. It's in the newspaper here that just some Christian group has decided that they are allowed to put these crosses up wherever they want to.
Are they on
They're
public?
Really not.
Are they on public property or private property?
On public property. It's like on the sides of the roads. I've talked to. It's on the interstate. My boyfriend just reminded me of that. There's some that are in between, like a Walmart and an Outback Steakhouse restaurant. And I actually asked if it was their property. It's nobody's property. It belongs to like the subdivision or whatever, but they're all over the place. I would say, you know.
Well, if it belongs to a subdivision, then it's private.
But
yeah, if it belongs to a subdivision, then it might be controlled by a homeowners association. Mm-hmm. And in that case, they're allowed to grant permission to put up things like this.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
What you're going to want to...
In that case, it's kind of sketchy, but the ones that are on the highway and in the middle and the median and stuff, there's no way.
Yeah, if it's in the middle of the median, then that's not cool.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you to go take them down. However, that might also be illegal.
And dangerous.
Yeah.
What you need to do is actually look into what the laws are in your area. You can contact probably ACLU and other organizations.
Yeah, I was thinking about calling the ACLU about it.
Yeah, and see what you can do to find out. In some cases, they're within their rights, and in some cases, they are on questionable ground, so to speak. And
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some of them that are up with complete permission to do it, but the ones that are on the interstate, I can't think of any way possible for that to be okay.
Yeah.
And there was
depending on what they are,
in the local newspaper here about it that was talking about. My mom had told me about it, saying that the group had said that it was their right and there's no reason for them to be taking them down, and there was some atheists that were making a quote unquote stink about it.
Yeah.
Because they said they can't put them up.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they're not allowed to, as far as I know.
It'd be interesting to find out why they think it's their right, and whether or not they're right. Because if they're just making claims that it's their right to go around, if they're making a freedom of expression claim, then they're wrong.
Yeah, I think that was their argument, but they're wrong.
Yeah.
That's like you can't put anything up in the middle of the highway. You couldn't put up a turtle statue. You couldn't put anything up, let alone a cross.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not much different than going around tagging crosses on bridge overpasses or something like that. And clearly you're not allowed to do that. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll contact the ACLU in some way, and maybe I'll send y'all an email and keep y'all updated on that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, please do. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you for talking to me.
Sure.
Bye. As a reminder, there's no after-show dinner tonight or before-the-show dinner, although some people eat. I'll probably go eat afterwards, but we're not doing anything official at Threadgills. Next week, the show will be back at its normal time, beginning at 4:30 Central, which was 3 hours earlier than we started today, and it's Russell and Martin, I think, are on next week.
Yeah, I think so.
We got John in San Francisco.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
I'm doing good. I've been watching your show, and I'm a big fan. And I'm a theist, by the way.
Okay.
And I just want to know what makes atheism, the naturalism worldview, more rational than all other worldviews. I mean, what kind of arguments can you present that would defeat all other worldviews?
Atheism is not a worldview.
What is it then?
It's a response to a claim. The claim being that a God exists.
But don't they view the universe as non-contingent? They view the world as particular way. They view evolution, science, everything
Nothing. There's no requirement for an atheist to believe any of those things.
Naturalism is a worldview.
Yes,
naturalism is.
Yeah.
But that's not the same thing as atheism.
Actually, you could argue that in some cases atheism is the result of naturalism, and in other cases it's not. For example, you've got Buddhists, or the example we use a lot. The non-theistic brand of Buddhists are atheists, and they have a worldview that's entirely not compatible with naturalism. So, are you just calling to ask why naturalism is
more rational than, say, monotheism or polytheism or pantheism?
Sure. The reason naturalism is more rational than any of the theisms is that they make an extra claim in addition to nature, and it's a violation of Occam's razor, the sharp end of Occam's razor.
What justification does atheism have that God does not exist?
Are you just like reading a list of questions you got from a website? Because
I'm just picking these up at the top of my head.
Okay. Atheism isn't the assertion that gods don't exist.
My understanding, atheism, by definition, is non-belief in a God.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Denial of the God.
Correct.
Not necessarily denial.
Well, I'll deny that the claims have been demonstrated. Atheism is not the assertion that gods don't exist. It is the rejection of the claim that gods do exist as unsupported.
So
you're asking,
exist, right?
What's that?
God does not exist.
I do not believe that any gods exist.
Can I tell you that that's a positive claim to knowledge? And
no, it's not a positive claim to knowledge. I just said I do not believe that gods exist. In the same way that I say I do not believe that fairies exist, and I'm not required to demonstrate that they actually don't. The default position is that existence must be demonstrated. I am not asserting to know to an absolute certainty that no gods exist. If I had asserted that position, and I would have had this conversation gone a different way, that I actively believe there are no gods, but instead I'm saying I do not believe that gods exist. Please demonstrate that they do.
God exists is a positive claim to knowledge by theists, and they use different arguments to justify that.
Yeah.
And why does the atheist have the default when God does not exist is as much as a positive claim as God
Because
That's not what we said.
Because atheists aren't asserting God does not exist.